So today is going to be, I think, a great seminar. I'm so glad you're here. Before we get started, when you think about downsizing, uh, what's a word that comes to mind? And I know some of you can shout, so you can say it loud. What's a word that comes to mind when you think about downsizing? Junk, work, overwhelming, letting go, too hard. Anything else? Sad. Adjusting, memories. Say that again. Relieving. Say that again. Safety. That's good. Anyone else? There's lots of emotion around downsizing, isn't there? And in today's seminar, we're going to have Virginia's going to come up here in a minute, and Dawn, and Virginia is a certified downsizing coach, and then Dawn is our downsizing specialist with our real estate and downsizing team, and I'll be up here. And then we're going to talk about some of the emotional aspects of downsizing, and then we also want to give you some practical tips and ideas. But I'm also excited because Anita Cruver is here. And I think anytime you can have a personal experience and hear someone's journey, I think is very powerful. And so, Anita, thank you for being here to share that with us today. So we're excited. But EPs, you're good to go to hang out over here on our reserve seating. And then one other quick thing, as Virginia and Dawn come up, where are you at in your downsizing journey? So, got a couple questions for you. So, raise your hand if you've been thinking about downsizing but haven't started. Okay, keep those up real quick. So, we'll go fast. Raise your hand if you've started but you feel stuck. Okay, raise your hand if you're helping a parent or neighbor or a loved one. And then raise your hand if you've already been through a move or transition. So there were a lot of hands that went up. And so you're in good company this morning. So again, excited. Thank you for being here. And we're going to dive right in. So we've got Virginia Lazenby, our illustrious, esteemed emeritus. Yes, I've got lots of titles for her. And this is actually my wife, Dawn, and a little bit about Dawn. So uh, there's a lot about Dawn, and she's amazing. She keeps me in line, but and that's hard to do. But I was telling someone earlier, with Dawn, she doesn't like clutter. So if I sit too long, I'm in a goodwill pile. So I have got to constantly move, or I'm out. So we're frequent donators of things, and so I appreciate that about you, sweetheart. No, really, I do. So, so let's get started, and I want this to be sort of a conversation, and we can kind of go back and forth with the three or four of us here, but yes, that is correct. I don't know if that is. Um, so we talk about the emotional aspects of downsizing, and it's, as we said earlier, it's a pretty loaded issue for many people. And one of the things that I think we want to start out with, and in your packet, you've got a few handouts that we thought might be helpful. And we're not going to pull everything from that today, but you may want to reference that throughout. But I know Virginia and I have had conversation about this, and there's some really good pieces that we want to pull out to help you in your journey. But one of the things we talk about is understanding the emotions of downsizing is to acknowledge your feelings. It's okay to feel attached to your belongings and allow yourself to experience those emotions without judgment. So, any thoughts or feedback on that, Virginia or Dawn? Like, just acknowledging your feelings about downsizing.
You want to go first?
It's hard. Um, yeah, I think just a little bit of experience walking through downsizing with my parents and moving my dad out here um, was probably a real reality for me. We're not in the downsizing phase obviously yet, but I do have a lot of experience walking through people, and it is hard. I see that, and yeah, just I think it's okay to acknowledge that and give yourself time and space to feel what you need to feel through the process for sure.
I agree. I know we have a brochure we often have out, Downsizing Made Easy, and I often hear a chuckle when people say that. Dawn's absolutely right. It's a challenge, and we have to acknowledge that. And you'll hear, I think, that from Anita today. And I know we're going to jump around here some too, but I agree with, it's hard, it's overwhelming, and we can go on and on. But the thing I have come to appreciate about downsizing, having worked in this field for a number of years now, is how we use this to our best advantage to be prepared. I was visiting with some of you this morning and talking about, well, I'm not ready, but I'm beginning. Absolutely. And that's the important part. We're going to talk some more as we go through here about the importance of being in control. As seniors, the developmental task we're going through, maintaining control. And when you think about it, and this is truly in the psychology research and all, our 2-year-olds are trying to maintain control. I can do it. And teenagers are trying to maintain control. And guess what? As seniors, we're trying to maintain control. Our kids are telling us what to do. Our friends have moved or passed away. There's a lot of loss going on. Our bodies don't work quite as well as they used to. Well, this is reality. And the most important thing we can do is be proactive and stay in control. And that's what we're really about. The other part, the other developmental task we're going through as seniors is, what is my legacy? What am I going to be remembered for? And that can start pulling some of us down. But you know what? We all have treasures in our lives. Some of them may be escapades that maybe we don't need to share, but maybe they'll bring a smile to our face when we think about how we handle a situation. But downsizing is a fantastic time to revisit some of our memories, and we'll share some things about that. So, um, some of you have seen, we'll be doing our downsizing workshop next week where we'll go much more in depth on this. But with a plan, with support, this can be a much more manageable time.
Yes, thank you. So that is a good plug for our downsizing workshop. You can sign up for that on your action steps sheet, and then we'll again mention at the end too. We can answer any questions. So another aspect of understanding the emotions of downsizing is to identify the source. Is it the item itself, or is it the memories associated with it? Understanding the root of your attachment can help you decide what to do. And we did hear those words today, memories. And so that's important. Anything you want to say about that? Like, understanding the source of the item.
One thing we laugh about or cry about, I hear most everyone say, well, I have all of this stuff that was passed to me, and now what am I going to do with it? Be the brave soul to step up and say, I don't have to pass all of this to my son and daughter. I'm just saying, sometimes we have to break the chain there. And it's funny how, my grandmother would be so upset if she knew I gave this china away, or my grandmother's not here now. I'm the one in control. And just to get more to specific strategy, some of us, when we had our downsizing club going, I shared my ongoing saga with these linen and lace tablecloths. And some of you have heard bits and pieces of this story, but I want to share it again. Those cloths were so special to my mother. Mother grew up in the Depression, and to have linen and lace was just not in her world. When she was in the situation, it was so special, just treasures. And they are. They're such beautiful treasures. They were tucked away in the bottom drawer of my china cabinet for 30 or more years. Well, they're not doing a lot of good in there. Probably deteriorating, actually. And as I was getting more into this field and being forced to look more at how we downsize, one of the strategies that I was introduced to was, we celebrate that item or group of items. Okay, you are special memories. And I wrote a story to the tablecloth about how special they were. I remembered the receptions in my home that we had for my aunt and uncle. I remember the reception, I think that was somebody's 50th wedding anniversary. I was in middle school and I was doing a science project with fruit flies. And thank goodness my mother was a science teacher, so she tolerated this. But we moved the fruit flies, we were breeding them, we moved them out into an enclosed area. But you know what? Those rascals are tiny. And they love sherbet punch. And, my mother was a little horrified when we were having to move out some fruit flies. But when I see the tablecloth and I think about the memory of it, it brought a smile to my face and something that I can remember. So I wrote some of those memories, took some pictures. Will I ever look at them? We'll see, but at least I'm beginning that collection. We're so fortunate to have such an easy way to save memories. And with a deep breath, I packed those linens and tablecloths up in boxes and took them to the Assistance League with the hope that someone else will enjoy them. Maybe not as tablecloths. People are so creative and do such neat craft projects. But when our liquidator uses the term rehome, so rehoming, whether or not for the original use or an alternative use, but let things live. What good does it do to have them stored away? I'm in a situation right now with a woman it's very difficult to let go. Well, keeping all these things in bins and boxes, in her case, is only preventing her from selling her home. So her house becomes an expensive storage unit until we can let go of some of that.
Yeah, that's so good. One of the things that you and I spoke briefly about, Virginia, is the idea of the language we use, even about getting rid of stuff. And you had some sort of alternative phrasing that you thought might be a little more respectful, instead of saying getting rid of your stuff.
I laugh about this. I have all these years I've been doing this, I struggle when I say getting rid of the stuff. And some people say, well, it is. Well, it is. But I was reading some research. You don't want to read this book. I've got some others I'll recommend. This is about downsizing. But two terms that have been very helpful to me, one in particular, is anticipatory downsizing. One of the things, and we'll talk more about a timeline. When do I start downsizing? Okay, we need to allow a year, 3 years, whatever. I'd like this idea because it fits in the early stages. I was talking with some of you about that this morning. I'm not moving anytime soon, but I've got that drawers of tablecloths, or I've got this or that. What a wonderful time to revisit our memories, share our legacy. So in anticipation of this downsizing, I'm going to start letting go. So the questions that we ask then, the strategies we use are very different than we are moving to an independent or whatever apartment in 6 weeks. Oh, now's not the time to, unfortunately, relive all those memories. Now the focus, speaking of language, now is the focus on, I so often slip to say, what do you want to take with you? Wrong. If we have a move imminent, it's not what do I want to take, really, because I want to take everything. I see some heads nodding over here. what will fit? What will you be using in your new life? And how do we help, how do we reframe that? So I think some of those, oh, and the other word I had to do, I'm still struggling. If some of you are going to go, I'm never going to use that term, but in the research, whatever, divestment. So when I'm getting rid of stuff, it is a divestment. They talk about the material convoy. I can't go that far. But divesting this of myself, letting it go on to somebody else. But I told Vince I'm struggling. Anticipatory downsizing, I really like that because it delineates why this person is sorting through and thinking about memories. And this person is, yeah, I probably take 4 mugs, 4 cups, and 8 feet of hanging clothes. That's a whole different ballgame when it's an imminent move.
That's good. So let's move over to some strategies, some emotional strategies. So we're going to give you 5 of these. And again, throughout, if you have questions, we will have a Q&A time at the end. And so we would love to answer any of your questions. But one of the emotional strategies is focusing on the future and really considering how decluttering and downsizing will improve your living space and overall well-being. And somebody, I think, over here said safety. And so that's a solid emotional strategy we want to consider. So focusing on the future. We did the downsizing workshop a few months ago, September, October, and we did a similar exercise. Some of you in the room were at that one as well. And we said, what are some words that come to mind? And somebody said serenity. And I thought that was very interesting. And when you can say that, you really are thinking about what downsizing looks like on the other side. And there's a saying that I use sometimes: what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing all the time the stuff in front of you versus what will that look like in the future when I'm able to divest of some of my things. So any comments on that, Dawn or Virginia, focusing on the future?
I don't have, I don't.
Yeah, that's okay. Virginia, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think if we can imagine what you want your life to be.
Yeah.
Do you want your new apartment to look nice and functional, or be filled with all of these bins, with all your memories? What's the safe environment? What's the pleasant? I was just talking to someone a while ago. Someone I'm working with has made it very clear that she's in assisted living. She wants to move. And in all fairness, she had a health crisis, so she never sorted through her house. She was moved into assisted living. Friends have helped her, but getting back to the house is a challenge. So, but she said, oh, but I don't want my apartment to look nice. I don't want people to think I like it here. And that's a sad situation. So we're working behind the scenes to make it look nice, but not to tell her we're making it look nice. We are having an organizer work with us to make the best use of your space so we can bring as much as possible down here. And so instead of having the pictures stacked against the wall, we're going to hang them on the wall. Not trying to make your apartment look nice, just trying to make the best use of your space. And I think that, what do you want your space to be? Do you want it to be relaxing? The other thing about downsizing, I'm jumping, but that's the way it is. So many of us have all those collections of things kind of rolling around in our heads. Oh, someday I'm going to have to do something with all of those bins of photos, and it keeps, hovering over us. If we can think, what if that was all gone? Ooh, what if I opened that closet and it was empty? That would be an amazing feeling. Our guest room would be nice if I would do that. So it's that what do you want your life to be? How do we envision it? Safety and functionality being foremost. And for some people, oh, well, no, I don't need a wheelchair. You're right. You don't need a wheelchair today, and we hope you never do. But there might be some time, even if not permanently, a temporary situation, they might be need to navigate a wheelchair through your place. And that's when we realize, oh, it takes more space to get between furniture when we have a wheelchair, whatever.
Yeah, it's good. Another emotional strategy is practice gratitude. Appreciate the item's role in your life and then let it go. And again, I think back to Virginia's story about her tablecloths. You wrote a letter, right?
It helped me. I mean, I have it on a file on my computer. Maybe I'll pass it on to my kids. But it's eh, thanking the role, the people who, did that along with the tablecloths. I also took this very ornate pie plate type thing from an aunt, had very limited resources, was very good at regifting. And I I can't even tell if something's worth $100 or $1 from but I had my idea. But I'd held on to it because it was so special and she was so oh, it's beautiful. I look forward to putting it out and then yeah, it's gonna be tucked away. But she's since passed away. So that went with the tablecloths. So
That's good. Another strategy is create new memories. Focus on creating new experiences and memories to replace old ones. Anything you want to say about that?
she's her real strength is in the mechanics of it. Um, I think one of the things when we talk about this is a lot of we don't really know what our new lifestyle will be about.
Yeah.
And because I share this story a lot. I've heard some people when we talk about in some of the communities you're going to play that volleyball with the softball or whatever. I mean, not softball, but like with a balloon or beanbag baseball. I'm never going to do that. Well, you know what? In some situations, you find out it might be fun when you can just walk down. What about laughing and having fun with people? Some of us have a hard time letting go of our work world, our responsibility world, and enjoying. I love it when I'm going through some of the communities and see people working together on jigsaw puzzles and just enjoying working together. And there's a difference in working together than trying to do it by yourself. I know some of you are avid jigsaw puzzle people. Don't interrupt your concentration with the social part. Good for you. Many of us, it's that kind of working together. So, guess what? This is a new chapter. You might find some new things you like to do.
That's great. Let's switch gears quickly to some practical steps. And you've got some in one of your handouts, but one of the things we talk about is starting small. And you probably heard this saying, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." And so, Dawn, talk to us about that and the importance of starting small and kind of approaching our stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you have not downsized at all, if you've been somewhere for years and raised kids and travel and collected, if you've lived life, you've got probably a lot of stuff, right? And so it is overwhelming to think, where do I start? Start small. Pick somewhere that's not emotional, like your kitchen or your bathroom cabinet. You're probably not too attached to a toaster or 10 spoons. So, you can start making some of those decisions probably a lot easier than the closet with all the memories and things that you've held on to. And I would say probably one of the first things too is just to acknowledge that you are going to need help, probably. Um, there's no amount of businesses that you can hire to help you pack, to help you move, to get resituated. But the process of downsizing, that's something that you have to do. You can't hire somebody to come in and make some of those decisions for you. And it's part of you staying in control. So you don't have to pay somebody to come help you. I mean, that's part of what I do, but have a friend come walk alongside you some days, because I think the physical part of making the decisions is actually as exhausting as the physical process of moving. So start small.
That's good. Another one is take your time. Don't rush the process. Allow yourself to make thoughtful decisions.
Yeah. And that's going back to, it is going to take a lot of time. And start now. People say, when do I start? Start now. Start with the small things.
It's that anticipatory
Yes.
downsizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Because you want to be the one to make the decisions of where you want your things to go, not waiting until somebody has to come in and make those decisions for you. So,
Anything to add to that, Virginia?
I agree wholeheartedly. You know, we start, and like we say, there's a different strategy for our timeline and where we are. But I also just want to, I don't know if it's devil's advocate or whatever. There's a time, and we don't want this to happen, but should there be a health crisis or something that necessitates a quicker move, then our focus shifts from what is it that, you know, I want to keep and so on. What are the key things that I want to, nope, I can't say that. See, I screw it up. What are the key things that I need to live comfortably in my next space here? And so we open up a cabinet, and instead of pulling my recommendation, instead of pulling everything out and reliving all the memories and taking a lot of time, we open the cabinet. Oh, yes, I really want to take those 4 mugs. 4 mugs will be fine. Those are my favorite 4 mugs. They're going with me. Mark them accordingly and close the cabinet and move on. It's an extreme example, but what I want to stress is the difference in anticipatory downsizing, where I'm thinking more about the memories and so on, to the functional part. Okay, we're going to be moving, and I know it's different with couples too. I know some couples in the room where one person has needed to make a move, and so it's kind of a hybrid in here. Okay, we want to identify the best things for this person to be comfortable in their next space. So, and there are that, you know, with the baby boomers now and whatever generations we call ourselves, the growing industry of how to help seniors. So, you know, and the main thing, the important thing is who you work well with. There are organizers who can help you. You know, it depends on what their assignment is. Are they supposed to make your place look neat and clean? Then that's one type, and that can be great. Are we looking at getting rid of stuff? Someone that can ask those tough questions. That's another kind of need and resource. So all of that, I know with move managers who we use, to me, their most effective way is when we've already sorted and we know these are the things that are going with us. They come in, pack them, move them, unpack them, set it up in your apartment. It's beautiful. Some people need more hand holding along the way. And so that's where you have to
Yeah. And
accommodate needs.
you bring up a good point. Our next bullet is create a system. So categorize items as keep, donate, sell, or discard, and this can help streamline the process. You want to talk about that, Dawn?
yeah, you said it perfectly. It's great to.
Okay, let's move on then. I'm just kidding.
Yes, a system just to know, okay, I know this is what I'm going to take. And then stuff that's left over, have a donate pile, things that you know you want to specifically give to family or friends, label. Yeah, just.
And then on the
help you out with
back
that.
of one of your handouts, you do have sort of some solutions and strategies. So you may want to take a look at that as well, some ideas. And how about the idea of setting aside a maybe pile? Like, I'm sorting, and I'm downsizing, and I don't want to deal with that right now. Like what do you
Yeah,
think about that?
I'm big on maybe piles because in the moment you it's hard. You don't always know immediately when you look at something what to do with it, and that's okay. It's a process. I say have a box, a bag. That's my maybe pile. If you don't know in the moment, it's okay. You can set it down and come back to it.
So if you have a maybe pile that's this big and a donate to there, that maybe that's too much of the maybe pile. So,
Yeah.
and one thing, oh, go ahead, Virginia. Anything else?
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, today it goes in the maybe pile, and then maybe on another visit, well, yeah, I can go somewhere else, so it gives you some buffer time. Again, it's kind of where you are in this process. If we have s- a long time frame ahead of us, but if we're doing something right now,
Yeah. I was just gonna say decision fatigue is a real thing. Like when you are going through things, again, it's mentally, it's emotionally exhausting. So it's okay. One thing too is set a timer. Decide, okay, today for an hour, I'm gonna make decisions. I'm gonna sort. I'm gonna decide, and then be done.
Yeah, that's good. So,
about, you said make a plan and small steps. For some people, that idea of a timer, I'm going to work 15 minutes or 30 minutes, do it, stay focused on it. Others have shared, oh, well, my goal is whether or not you like this strategy, at least they have a plan and they're doing something. I am going to take a box out of my house every week. Okay, that may not be your goal, but they're doing something. Others of us are great about talking about it. Or we can read books. I've got two great books to recommend, but I'm reluctant to because you need to do it. We can give you some of the strategies. Some of us can talk about it forever.
yeah, so true. So whether we talk about emotional strategies or practical strategies, really quickly, we're going to land the plane on this section is the importance of involving others, neighbors, friends, professional help. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's almost probably impossible to tackle downsizing and moving by yourself. Um, Sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes. You just need even somebody just to share the story of why this thing is valuable, what the history in the story, why it's important to you, and then it makes it a little easier to decide what to do with it. But yeah, help is important.
Yeah, that's good. Anything, Virginia?
Absolutely. We've talked about this both just in this initial sorting, or when people will say, "Oh, I've moved 15 times in my life. I've got this. I can do it." As we often say, this move is different. Most of our other moves, everything went from the first house to the second house. Guess what? If you're going from a 2,000 square foot home to a 800 square foot apartment, not everything is going with you. So there's one difference. And for most of us, those 15 or so moves ago may have been a few years ago. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a lot more energy a few years ago, and my back was stronger. My knees worked better. I could lift the boxes. I could fill the boxes. So get somebody to help. I do know that this is the one thing I would find that balance. I had a woman a few years ago, and her family was going to help her do the sorting, organizing, and move. She was moving out of state, which was great. And there were some real strengths too. And her friends were coming over to help her. If you get too many people working on this project, nothing gets done. So you got to be judicious in there and have assignments. Today we're going through the kitchen, and whether or not we're going to put things in boxes or put stickers on them or whatever our strategy is, but keeping people focused. Although the fun part and sharing stories is important, it
Yeah.
depends on where you are time-wise.
Yeah. So definitely seek out the help of others is a huge benefit, whether, again, it's the practical side of things or the emotional side of things. But thank you, Dawn. Love you so much. And Again, that's my wife, so I can say that. So, Anita, you want to come on up and join us? So, again, a lot of what we just went over is a handout in your packet. So, make sure you take a look at that, and we'll trade seats here. So, again, thank you so much, Anita. I'm so glad that you're here. Just tell us a little bit about you.
Hello, fellow downsizers or downsizers to be. My name is Anita Cruver. My husband and I have lived in Texas 26 years by way of Philadelphia, and myself, Denver, Los Angeles, and Chicago. So my husband in the New York City area to Philly, a prior Texas resident. So we had a lot of moves individually and collectively behind us, as I'm sure that many of us in this room do. In my adult life, I've moved three times, interstate moves, and 8 interstate moves as well. 3 of those moves have happened in the past 7 years when we moved to Georgetown. From a 5,000 square foot home in Horseshoe Bay, loved it. It housed all of the things that my husband and I had acquired through our travels and life together, to a lovely 2,600 square foot townhome here in Georgetown. And a year ago to a 1,200 square foot apartment at Grand Living of Georgetown. We had health issues in the family that required us to make our downsizing decision sooner than later. So we knew this was coming, but it doesn't make it any easier. We were on the waiting list at Grand Living a year, well, maybe 8 months before the phone call came saying that the apartment that we wanted was ready. And then it was time to move. And I enlisted the help of Virginia and her team. And so she knows how hard we all worked to make it happen. But before that moment came, I and my husband were very intent, myself probably more so, intent on making sure that we very mindfully identified things that were not going to be coming with us. And we knew that they were not going to be coming with us. So that made our move not easier. Believe me, it is brutally hard. And all of the comments that have been made, in the past 45 minutes up here are absolutely spot on. It's hard. You cry. You feel that you can't let go. But if you give yourself permission to recognize those feelings and concretely identify those things that you know you can let go of, and mindfully donate, gift them, or give them to a person or an organization that you know that will respect and love them as much as you did, it makes the job a lot easier. So it teaches you that things can be done. In this room, we have decades and decades of resilience and hard work from our work life, our personal life, raising families and being here. All of us here, it's not our first rodeo. What we're looking at downsizing is just another rodeo, and we can do that.
That's good. Thank you. So, before you started downsizing, how did you feel about it emotionally? Like, what were your thoughts about that?
Yeah, before, I think that many of the comments that were made prior where we were, my husband and I, there was some apprehension. We had heard about downsizing. We talked about it a lot. I read a lot of books on it. I did what you are doing today. I attended seminars. I gathered information. I joined Virginia's Downsizing Club. And she will tell you that I sort of micromanaged some of the the items that I was going to downsize. But you have to start somewhere, and I was starting somewhere. But the feelings were all rather, it was all sort of theoretical in my head. Yeah, downsizing. Yeah, people do it. I can do this. I'm good. Um, but as I had mentioned before, my husband and I had to make a decision sooner than later because of health issues so that we could continue to live our best life and our safest life. surrounded by the things that we continue to love. So it continued to be sort of this theoretical notion of, yeah, downsizing, until the day came when we actually had to start looking at things and saying, is this coming or not?
So what was the hardest part of letting go?
I think the hardest part is probably just starting the process, the first baby step, beginning to concretely identify what you're going to keep and what we're going to let go of. And that's important because this was mentioned before too. You want to be in control. You don't want someone else making these decisions for you. You want to make them for yourself. So every object from the most insignificant to the most prized possession in your home will be touched in some way. I mean, physically touched, looked at, removed from the wall or from a table and so forth. And memories come flooding in without warning. As Virginia mentioned about her lace tablecloths and the legacy there, we all have them. You remember the moment that was purchased, who gave it to you, and so forth. You cry over the silliest things. I've cried over Starbucks Christmas mugs that I had to give up. You know, who goes, Santa or the snowflakes? I mean, and that's okay. That is so okay. No one's watching. If you want someone to watch, that's fine, but you don't. So it's the very smallest things to the biggest things. For decades, I had a baby grand piano. I love music, and I had a baby grand piano, the love of my life, besides my husband. And I knew that when we moved from Horseshoe Bay to Georgetown, it was not coming. I knew that very, very well. I mindfully made decisions as to how I was going to let go of my piano. But the day they came to take that piano away, I was not there. I could not be. I left, but when I came home, I walked into that room and I cried. And I can cry right now if I tried. So, and that's okay. But there's a happy ending to the story. I gifted it to the Regents School of Austin, which is a very fine private school in the Austin area. And their performing arts director took it with with much gratitude. And I was invited to recitals where I saw students playing on my baby grand piano. So that's where that memory is now. It's not in our home in Horseshoe Bay or our home in Houston or our home in Philadelphia. I know it now. It's living its best life at the Performing Arts Studio in Austin. So what really the hardest part was walking through the house before the estate sale too. We elected to have an estate sale and seeing things laid out that were going to be sold, and you cry again and you say goodbye again, and that's okay. It's a personal moment and one that's very, very important to acknowledge in order to move forward. So don't be afraid of that.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that, Anita. Was there a moment when you can identify that you went from feeling, things went from overwhelmed to manageable?
Yes, it does happen. There is an end point. There is life after downsizing. Because you can't cry forever. You can. I still cry. Over things. We all do.
Maybe that should be a title of a workshop, Life After Downsizing.
Life after
Yeah.
downsizing. Exactly. So when things begin to move on and are physically gone to persons or institutions that we decided on, something shifts and you begin to move forward. You have to. Staying stuck is really not an option. It's not a safe option. The transition from overwhelming to manageable begins with acknowledging that the process is very hard. It really is. And it requires you to say goodbye over and over again, but at the same time acknowledging the joy that all your possessions, afforded you. And I did that over and again too. I would hold an object in my hand and I would recall the joy it brought me, whether that be from my Starbucks mug or a piece of costume jewelry or a piece of statuary or a piece of china. It didn't matter. I would take a moment and I would say, "You brought me joy, and I thank you for that." And then I would let it go. It's acknowledging. It's not, when it all comes down to it, it's ceramic, it's wood, it's glass, it's crystal, it's stuff. but it's the memory that you attach to that stuff that you are acknowledging and saying goodbye to, but always holding it in your heart, and you will. It's like a grief process. You hold those things in your heart. And what shifts from overwhelming to manageable is when you are in your new space, like we are now, and you see the special items that you chose to bring with you in your new space. It's like, wow, you're an old friend in our new home. And it's fun. And you look at pieces and you think, oh my gosh, I remember when that lamp was in that room, but now it's here. I remember that mirror was here, now it's there. I do that all the time. And so you're sort of revisiting old friends in your new space. And that's of comfort too, sort of joyful. Um, and things become much more manageable as you settle in and recognize that.
Yeah, that's good. You've sort of answered this already, but anything else you want to add about, how did it feel walking through belongings that were tied to memories?
It's brutally hard. There is no easy way out. It's brutally hard. If you don't feel about things that you've acquired or have special meaning to you, you're probably denying yourself something very essential to your being. So saying goodbye to possessions are memories. So you have to get your head around the fact that the memories will always be there, even if the possessions go away. They really will. My husband was an eminently successful attorney, and we had to let go of his decades old lawyer's desk, his wall full of bar certificates and awards for his accomplishments, and his incredible personal library of law and Civil War books. That wasn't hard. For me, it was hard. For him, it was overwhelming. And I remember we sat in the living room and we knew we had to make a decision. And we both cried. And if he was here, he would say, yeah, I cried. It was really, really hard. But we made the decision to gift those items to his law firm, the law firm in Houston that he founded back in the 70s that still bears his name. And we were in touch with his former law partner, the managing partner of the firm now, and we gifted his desk, all of the bar certificates, and the library to the firm. And if we were to walk through the firm today, it's down in Houston, we haven't had that opportunity, but if we were, his desk would be there and all his accomplishments and his bar certificates would be there too. So it's a special way of acknowledging, some very, very personal items that we had to let go to. And that is the way that you manage some of the heartache with that.
That's good. So, when you think about the whole downsizing process, what surprised you most about it?
How creative you can really be. How creative you can be in mindfully identifying where you want things to go. Oftentimes we think, well, I'll just put it in a box and take it to, a local thrift shop or donation site. And that's great, that's fine. In many cases, that's appropriate. But there are things of special value, as I just described, and I have many more stories. I'll tell you a couple here shortly, where, gosh darn it, you're not going to just let those things go without a fight, without finding a special home for them that you hope will mean as much to a new owner as they did to you. We had a great collection of art. Much of it made its way from, don't laugh. Don't chuckle. It was beautiful. It what? No. And we share some inside stories here because when I was preparing for the sale, Virginia and her team said, "You have a lot of decor," which I think was code for, "Oh my God, what are we going to do with all this?" But in any case, it was lovely, and we had
It's amazing how much you could move to your apartment.
absolutely, we did it. So we had some very nice pieces of fine art that hung in our home in Houston way back in the day. Some of it made it to Horseshoe Bay. Some of it made it to our Georgetown townhome, but we knew most of it was not coming with us. Great pieces that have an aesthetic that is appreciated by us, but not by all. much sold. We identified those things we wanted to keep, give to the children and so forth. And then some of it didn't sold, and I was thought, you got to be kidding me! No one wants this beautiful piece. There were three.
That was painful when,
Yeah.
for you.
Yes, it was. It was. And but you get sort of dig in and get mad. You're like, I'm going to win this battle. So I was walking the halls of Grand Living one day after the estate sale was over and the pieces remained and awaiting disposition. And I thought, I wonder if Grand Living would love this one piece for their chapel. It was the scene of an interior of a cathedral, lovely piece. And I thought, I'm going to ask. I did, and they said yes. So one of our pieces now hangs in the chapel at Grand Living of Georgetown, where we live. So when we go in for service, when we go in for a lecture, when we go in for a movie, whatever, there's our painting. It's like that old friend. It's like I'm sitting at my dining room. It's really nice. Same with we had a lovely Virginia Metal Crafters fireplace set of fender and andirons that we carried back from our Yankee days in Philadelphia. And that is now gracing one of the fireplace mantles in Grand Living of Georgetown, too, in their private fireside dining room. The two other pieces, Renaissance Wedding, which hung in my music room with my grand piano, baby grand, and another piece, Two Medieval Boys, that we loved because it was reminiscent of our two grandsons when they were first born. Oh, the medieval boys, that's who they are. Were with us for many, many years. They didn't sell, gosh darn it. How could they possibly not have sold? But they didn't. So I thought, nope. The first time I heard the word liquidator will take care of it, I thought, no, they won't. In my mind, I was nice. I was always nice.
She was nice about it, but you did not like our suggestion.
Exactly. So I thought, where would they go? They have a very Tuscan feel to them. So does the vineyard at Florence, up the road in Florence, a very Tuscan feel event center. I knew someone who knew the owner, made the connection. I said, would you like these pieces? They said, absolutely. And that's where they hang today. So I'd like to think of them there rather than at the mercy of a liquidator somewhere. And then I kicked in my heels finally. After everything was removed from the home, it finally, things had to go, and that was okay. You make that decision and you have to move forward. But there were two rugs and a secretary that I said, nope, these are not going. I don't know why. They just are not going to go. I want them maybe someday. And so they are in storage now. So it's okay, to say, I'm going to hold on to this. You, the universe, have taken enough from me already. You're not going to take these two rugs and this secretary. And that's okay to identify in that way, too. But it's amazing. You don't miss things after a while. Once you're in your new space and you've settled in, you don't think, oh, where is this? Where's that? You might, but you don't miss it. You don't miss the things because hopefully you've gone mindfully through a process and are at peace. And if you make peace with the emotional aspects of what's going on, of the material possessions shouldn't make a difference. In the end, it's you that have created the memories, not the objects.
How did you mentioned your children earlier. How did they respond, and how did you navigate expectations around?
Yeah, we had very fortunate to have great family support, and many of the items that we gifted to the children and grandchildren were identified many, many years ago. So they were extremely supportive in the process, and whatever decisions we made, they were fully on board with them. What you have to be prepared for, and you probably are, they're not going to probably want your stuff. They're not going to want all your china. They're not going to want your crystal. They're not going to want your silver, and so forth. And that's really true. So you have to find, if you have those collections, you need to find good homes for those if you so choose. And I still have a collection of, I kept a small collection of our china, a small collection of our crystal, and it's in a much smaller china case with other collectibles that I kept. But some things, the family just doesn't want. It's generational, and you just have to find a new home for them. It doesn't have to be your biological family. Maybe it can be, a church family or a donation site that has a mission statement that resonates with you, that you know that your mom or you or your family, generational family, would be proud to have them there.
That's good. I don't know if you remember, those of you who were here, but a few months ago, Keith Steiner was on our panel, and he said they took some of their fine crystal that they never really used, and they use it every day now, like their Baccarat crystal. That's what they use every day. So, um, a couple more questions, Anita. What does it feel like now being on the other side of downsizing?
It feels great. It really does. Now we're coming up on a year after the process, so it takes a while, to settle in and to feel comfortable. But it really feels great, and I'm still decluttering even a year later. I don't know, maybe it becomes an obsession. I'm not quite sure. But what I thought I needed, I don't. It's more practical things. Like, I really don't need that Vitamix blender. I really don't need that Cuisinart blender anymore. But I'm still finding myself in the process of decluttering. It's important. It makes you, at least I'll speak personally, it gives you a sense of control over your life. Um, and I'm considering um, recovering. We were only able to bring um, a few pieces of furniture for the living room, 2 occasional chairs and 2 chairs that we use in our dining space. But I'm thinking, we've had those for a long, long time, and those 2 chairs were in my piano room. The other 2 chairs were in various places in our house, but they're now our little kitchen dining room chairs. I'm thinking of having them recovered, giving them new life. So giving pieces that had been with us a long, long time a new place in our new home, and that's sort of energizing and fun. And it's a freeing experience not to be tethered to too much stuff. It really is. There is a time and place for that, and believe me, we had a lot of stuff, beautiful stuff, meaningful stuff. But it's okay not to have that tethered around you anymore, because the memories of all that are still with you, still in your heart and your mind. And you learn lessons in making things work, learning to live with less. You can do it. You really can. You can be creative and learn with less. And just don't, because we just don't have the space anymore. But even if we did, I think I learned valuable lessons of just, keeping it simple at this stage, at this chapter in our life.
So our last question, and you kind of touched on some of these things. If you could say one thing to someone who is here, feels stuck, what would it be?
It would be start now and start small. I think we commented on that a few minutes ago, and it's really to um, I got this advice many, many years ago, and I still adhere to it even today, and that is get rid of 10 things every day. Now that sounds like, what? I won't have anything left in my house in a week. Oh yeah, you will. But 10 things could be anything from 5 magazines that have been sitting on your bed, on your next to your TV console table, to a couple pieces of costume jewelry that you're never going to wear, or maybe a couple of neckties that they've seen their better day, they need to go. 10 things every day. Coat hangers, wrapping paper. It sounds silly, but it starts to give you a momentum, and you start to get a feeling of decluttering and moving ahead. And you ask yourself, with every object that you touch or every little piece of something, does this bring me joy? And ladies, when you look at the clothing and the jewelry and so forth, I do this all the time. Does this really bring me joy? It doesn't matter that I bought it at Neiman Marcus and spent way too much money for it, or it was for a special occasion and I should not have done that, or this or that. I'm not being frivolous. I'm not saying that. It's probably didn't come out the right way. But what I'm saying is, when you look at, because we've all bought, let's face it, we've all bought things that we thought we probably shouldn't have, and have, buyer's remorse. That was my point. But when you look at things, ask them, does this bring me joy? Does it bring me joy? If you can honestly answer, yes, it does, then keep it. If you can say, nope, it doesn't, for whatever reason, you don't have to overthink, and then let it go. And uh, just just I think The worst thing to do, I think, in my opinion, is to stay stuck, because in the end, you want to maintain control. You want to be in control of what you're doing. You do not want someone else to be making these decisions for you. This process is very, very difficult. When you're doing it yourself and you are prepared, it's still really, really hard. Can you imagine if someone else is now taking things that brought you joy, or you have great memories, and saying, this can't stay, and they toss it aside, or put it aside? That would hurt even more. So stay in control. The process is tough enough. Make it your own, not someone else's.
Great. I love that. Start now and start small. I love that. Virginia, anything you wanted to add as we kind of walk through this process with Anita?
Yeah, what I've appreciated about this seminar, and especially with Anita's sharing, is I feel that so often we talk at a kind of a high level about the mechanics of downsizing, or, what to do, sort, organize, get rid. But it's hard to talk about the emotions. And that's what we wanted to accomplish in this seminar. And when Vince was saying, I really want to have someone who can share with us their journey and be willing to share their emotions. And Anita stepped up to the plate for that. Now, we may not all have grand art and baby grand pianos, but we have things that are special to us. And I just wanted to call attention to one of the things in your handout packet, the disbursement list. That she talked about sharing things, because we don't have the big law firms to go back to, but we may have smaller things. It turns out that how is it? Anyway, my father was an elementary principal. His desk eventually was passed to my sister, who returned to our hometown to be a teacher. And so there are things that we can celebrate that, but it's taking action and doing something. And on this, what I appreciate on this disbursement list, you can make your own version of it, but planning ahead, who will these items be going to? And what is the significance of the item, of the treasure? So often, well, they don't want this. Well, the grandkids may not know why it was important to you. If they knew a little bit about the story, that might help. And here's another. When we do gift things to people, I hope we don't then, the next time we're at their house, oh, do you have it on display? Where is it? We won't go any further. Read between the lines there. I've had situations where I've worked with families and will say, gratefully accept the item and then do as you choose. Again, I won't go any further. You figure that one out. But if people know the significance of something, and we always say, it's such a common line, oh, they don't want our china, they don't want our crystal, blah, blah, blah. I am amazed at times when kids do step up to say, hey, we would love to have that, or friends. I just had a situation where a friend's grandchildren said, oh, we'll buy her sterling. So sometimes, it's not as bleak as we make it out to be. My daughter loved my pottery from 1972 when I was first married. And it's so much fun. She's actually using it. She thinks it because she likes mid-century stuff. And it's beautiful. So you never know. There could be surprises. But I know when one of the times I was meeting with Anita and Dawn, and Don just kind of pulled me aside and goes, this was going to be our forever home. Period. We're having to make this change. But I love some of Anita's phrases about mindfully making decisions. What will allow us to continue our best lives? As much as you love the condo, the two-story condo wasn't, even though you didn't need the upstairs, but needs change, situations change, and by being proactive, you're in a good environment as life continues to develop. So, and when she mentioned about creative space too, that's when we were talking about with maybe managers, organizers, whatever. But okay, yeah, we can take that and we can use it in a different way. So it's so much fun to go into a new apartment and see so much stuff from the condo, and it's a warm feeling for you.
Great. Thank you again, Anita and Virginia and Dawn. We'll open it up to questions now. So if you have any questions, and Ken, could you forward that to, I think, the next to the last slide, the workshop slide, so people can see that. Um, we've got a question over here.
On estate sales, what do people want and what they don't want?
Estate sales? It depends. Our standard answer. You know what's really popular at estate sales are the daily items. I mean, like our Corningware, Pyrex, things like that, tchotchkes. I know when you talk with liquidators, it's an interesting combination of the big stuff to draw people in. But the majority of the money is a lot of times the little stuff. Now, as Anita alluded to, you had a lot of well, you sold artwork too, but you had a lot of beautiful fine art masterpiece type that may not fit as well for people who are going to estate sales. Now, there are other outlets, online sales, and some of that I think was tried too, and I think some sold. But as you continue to work through it, but I loved it when she called, when we talked, and she said, "Oh, I found a place for my art." So all of that, but estate sales, I'm going to go ahead and mention the dilemma.
Yeah.
There
Just
is an
help your
ongoing.
falling papers here. I was going to help you, but you got it.
There's an ongoing dilemma. Dawn talked about how we sort stuff, and that's fine. And that is important. This is something I want to save, I want to donate, I want to sell. For some people, now if you talk to a liquidator, oh, save everything, I can possibly sell it. They can. But some of us can't live with all that boxes and all that stuff to get ready for that. In some situations, I've had people say, okay, we're going to put everything in the extra bedroom that, we want to save for estate sale. That can work well. So it's an individual situation. What can you survive with? Then I also have to say, what is it we're wanting to accomplish with the estate sale? Are we trying to make money? Is that what we really need at this point in our lives? I know I've had a lot of situations, and I can't remember in years, where it's been great when the proceeds from their estate sale cover most of the move. But we don't, the estate sale, we move before we have the estate sale, so we don't know. But for some of us, it's not about it's really letting go of this stuff. So everything they love tools, special items like really fine art, fine jewelry, firearms. With a good estate sale group, they are going to handle that separately through private sales in appropriate ways. So if you're on your own looking for someone to do an estate sale, make sure they know what they're doing. But it's all sellable. But the broken stuff, chipped stuff, that just go ahead and get rid of. They're going to get rid of it if you don't. You might as well save time and not pay them to sort through it when it's seen its better day.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What if you have one item that has been in the family a long time and you have several children who each want it? How do you solve that problem?
Gloves. That's kidding.
Is it something that you could have them take turns displaying in their home like one takes it for 1 year and another year? Is it something that could be displayed or?
Possibly.
All of these situations, they are unique. And I mean, it's a very legitimate question. I've heard people say done drawings and put the names in a hat and draw out who gets it. So it's,
Did you say it was plates, a box of china? Oh, oh, okay, a decorative plate, yeah. I'd have them just take turns displaying it. Every Christmas, they pass it along to the next sibling or family member and say, you get it this year, next year you decide who gets it.
My wife's father had all of his possessions appraised, and then everybody took the money, cash money that they got, and then they bought whatever they wanted. And so you bid on it, and if you didn't bid high enough, you didn't get it.
okay, Vince, could you repeat some of that?
I believe what he was saying is that they took the cash value of items, and then he had the kids bid on it. And if they didn't, they weren't the highest bidder. They whoever bid the highest got the item. I love
Others?
that.
You can have family feuds too, but every situation's different. Every family is different.
Yeah, 10 kids, some wanted the cash, some wanted the possessions. That's good.
I just want to share a situation. I had a box. I was cleaning out a closet and I had a box. And in that box was things that were special to me. It was my 50-something-year-old son's Pinewood Derby car that he had made when he was very young. It was a little costume that I had made, an Indian costume that when he was playing in the Thanksgiving play when he was like in first or second grade and so forth. And so I took that box and I was taking it over and told my son and daughter-in-law, I said, this belongs to him. I think he'd really enjoy it and probably his daughters would when they get older. And my daughter-in-law looked at me and she says, oh, that's fine. I'll take it to Goodwill for you. So, and well, it wasn't long after that. We were standing in the hallway and I have a curio cabinet that is full of all kinds of special glass things that have accumulated over the years, and Lenox birds and you just name it. And special things that the kids made, actually. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff. I've kind of been looking at what it might be worth. And my daughter-in-law looks at it and she says, eBay, eBay, eBay. And I said, and I hope you get a lot of money for it.
I think sometimes we need to have a little conversation with our families about these things are very special to me. I want to share them with you and encourage them to, we don't need to know what happens. I mean, it's, okay, it's going to Goodwill, but they don't need to tell you that. We had a situation where there was a collection of Madame Alexandra dolls and other dolls, and this friend of the person, she had 5 daughters and their grandchildren, and so they had this doll giveaway recently, and they all got to claim their dolls. And before the friend, the mother of this group, had said, some of them don't really want those dolls, but I've told them you're going to be excited about the dolls, you're going to thank her for them, and you're going to walk out with them, and then go from there. Our goal is to divest ourselves of these special items.
I don't exactly have a question, but when I made my first big move over 20 years ago, somebody said to me, if you're looking at something that you can't decide whether to take or not, take a photo of it. Now, you mentioned in here photos of documents, but take a photo of it. And that made me decide on a lot of things. I didn't want a photo of it. And I just got rid of those two. So that was very helpful for me.
So we do talk about taking photos for some people you have it. You may never look at it again, but at least we think it's there.
Anyone else? Great, thank y'all so much. So, anything else, Virginia?
I just wanted to reemphasize next Thursday, we're having the downsizing workshop. And so this gets more into the mechanics of the overall downsizing, meaning when you're going to usually to a smaller living environment. And I think of it in the major categories of you're going to be making the move. You're going to need to get rid of what does not go with you, the liquidation. You're going to need to get your house ready to sell, the property preparation, and then briefly the real estate. That'll come up more later. But that's why we'll deal more specifically. And it will be interactive. We're going to even ask you some tough questions. You don't have to all share publicly. But, for you to be engaged in where am I in this process? Why am I not making this next step? What will help me make the next step, and so on. So it is limited due to space. So sign up on your pretty bright chartreuse, whatever color sheet there.
It's here on the screen. It's next Thursday. It'll be from 1 to 4, and it's at the Keller Williams Lone Star office in downtown here. And some of you have signed up already for last month. We have you on the list. I think we had probably 10 or 12 people, and so space is limited. It's not a huge room for some of you who have been there, but you can sign up on your that bright form there. There's a space at the bottom. You can check, and we will register you, and we will send confirmation emails out if you want to sign up for that.
Like Vince said, it's at the Keller Williams Realty Lone Star office, 1003 South Austin. For those of you who've been here for several years, it was the old Wonderful Things. So a couple blocks south of the square, not where Keller Williams was for years with the filling station light building across from the Palace, but on down another block. There is a parking lot there. There should be plenty of parking. It is all one level. And don't worry, you're not going to have to sit still from 1 to 4. There's interaction. We'll have some breaks in there. But we want to have time to get into some serious conversation and sharing of what can help with the whole downsizing process.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much. If you have any questions for Anita, she will be hanging out for a little bit. And if you have any questions on downsizing, any real estate things, Virginia and I are here. And then our educational partners will be at their tables. I encourage you to get to know these amazing people. And you guys have an amazing afternoon, okay? Oh, sure. The next topic. Oh, thank you. Thank you. The next topic is selling as is. Is this a smart strategy or costing mistake? So when we help people all the time, that's a balancing act. And so on the panel, we're going to have a real estate appraiser. We're going to have a home inspector. And then I'll be on the panel as well. And so I think that's going to be a great seminar. If you know of anyone who might be interested in that, have them come and bring them with you next week. Virginia won't be here. She's going to be somewhere in South America, so for weeks on end, but we'll miss her next month. But yes, I think anything else? Okay, great. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you next month.